Good afternoon. I am Kathleen Smith, Chief Marketing Officer here at ClearedJobs.Net. ClearedJobs.Net is a veteran-owned firm, and we always make sure that we take extra time explaining career search and career advancement tips with our military transitioning community. I'm really happy today to invite one of our customers, CACI, to share with us some of the tips that their veterans have really enjoyed and succeeded with from transitioning from the military service into the corporate service. So first, Denyse Gordon, I'd love for you to share your military background and share with us a little bit about what your role is with CACI.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denyse Gordon-Watts. I served for a combined 23 years in the United States Air Force and the United States Air Force Reserves. I have been at CACI for a little over 14 years, and in that capacity, I am part of a dynamic three-person team of military veterans, all retirees, and our role is to assist the transitioning service member, veteran, military spouses, members of the National Guard and Reserves find meaningful employment within CACI.
Wonderful. And Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, ClearedJobs.Net. Yeah, I'm proud to be part of that dynamic three-person team Denyse just mentioned. I run the Military and Veterans Affairs program for CACI, and I've done that for the past 5.5 years. I tell people I think I have the best job at CACI because I get to talk to veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses every day as we help them make their transition and take on new career opportunities with our company. I spent 35 years in the Army, retired in 2014, an infantry officer for all those years, and the last couple of years I spent at the Pentagon in various senior staff assignments, and about 4 years in combat since 9/11 in Iraq and Afghanistan. Again, we're a three-person team. The person not on the call here today, in addition to Denyse and I, is Robert Bartlett. Some of you out there may have engaged with Robert. He's really the first line of engagement with our transitioning service members and job-seeking veterans. And together with Robert, Denyse, and me, we got 64 years of military service and about 25 years at CACI. So we feel we have a good feel for the transition and transition that the service members are undergoing, as well as the career opportunities here at CACI.
Wonderful. So as we were chatting earlier before the show started, we've got a lot of veteran events going on this week. We have, so many memorial services. We have many opportunities to celebrate our veterans. And then we also have so many events that are really geared toward helping the transitioning military service member better understand the overall process. So let's kick off into these questions that we want to make sure that we're imparting this knowledge, this expertise with our audience. So what are some of the things that CACI does to help veterans succeed once they are hired? Gary, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I'll take a first swing at it, Kathleen. We call the program by which we integrate our service members and veterans and military spouses into the company. We call it the Veterans Inclusion Program, VIP, where we treat everyone and every veteran as a VIP. And what the Veterans Inclusion Program includes is a welcome letter, an email from me, as well as a couple other senior folks in the company, welcoming them to the company, explaining the veterans and various aspects of the veterans program. Every new hire who is a veteran or a military spouse or serving member of the National Guard Reserves gets this welcome email. They also get an invitation to join our Veterans Employee Resource Group. Our Veterans Employee Resource Group is scattered across the company and country in 5 different chapters and a national chapter. We have over 500 members, and what we do is keep our veteran employees informed, keep them active, keep them focused on things like assisting in hiring, retention, philanthropy, mentorship, professional development. These are things that our Veterans Employee Resource Group is involved in, and we invite every new hire to join that. We also encourage our new veterans and new hires in the company to enroll in our mentorship program. We call it the Veterans Transition Mentorship Program, where senior veterans in the company, like myself and Denyse, will serve as mentors for new hires who need some coaching, some advising, and just some advice outside of the business chain of command, if you will, and friendly assistance and coaching along the way. And we have a number of new hires who take advantage of that. So, Veterans Inclusion Program, mentorship, welcoming, invitation to our Veterans Employee Resource Group, and just overall integration into the company. Because we know the transition from the military to the civilian world can be difficult. Our veteran new hires bring leadership, work ethic, self-discipline, all those things into the job that make them great employees. But at the same time, it's a new environment. And so I think the elements of the inclusion program really help with that integration as our new hired veterans get adjusted to the corporate environment.
Great. So, Denyse, what are some of the other things that you see that CACI does to help the veteran succeed once they're hired with CACI?
Sure. Just as Gary mentioned, and one thing we can say, I think, which is a fact about the veteran community, is that it is extremely diverse. And at CACI, diversity of thought, those are the types of qualities that we deem to be extremely beneficial to add to the workforce. So it's not necessarily about fitting in, it's about adding to. And we believe that as veterans are attracted to CACI, and one of the main things that we really look to do is to retain the veteran once they are hired. It's because we absolutely feel that the diverse and inclusive nature of CACI kind of mimics that you would find in the military with esprit de corps. So what do we need to keep the veteran once they're hired into CACI? So we make sure that we do as much as we can to make them feel included. And one of the main things we could absolutely say that kind of drives that home is our, as Gary mentioned, our Veteran Employee Resource Group.
Wonderful. So what's interesting is that whenever I've spoken with veterans when they're transitioning, they always think that there's one kind of position that they're going to get at their next company. They think that this was my MOS, this was what I was going to do, so I'm going to do that exact same job when I get into the corporate world. And what's interesting is that while there may not be any one-for-one transition between maybe someone was a rifleman or something like that, and there isn't that kind of job in the commercial world. But what are some of the types of positions that you see veterans really shine and hit the ground running when they transition out of the military and come into the corporate world? So why don't we start with you first, Denyse?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the ultimate goal when a veteran joins the military, or when a transitioning service member leaves the military to join a company such as ours, is we want to make sure that they are set up for success. And at CACI, because we are a national security company, a lot of the MOSs and AFSCs and rates and so on and so forth of what you would find in the military, we have those similar positions within the company. So what that means is we want to make sure that when the veteran is applying for a position, it's something that they know. It's something that they are comfortable with, and for all intents and purposes, they have mastered that career field. They have mastered, the day-to-day of ensuring that they are leading, ensuring that they are carrying out the types of positions that they've held the majority of their career. And those are the types of positions that we always try to make sure that the veteran applies to. Now, when you're talking about changing careers, it can be a little bit tricky, and sometimes, that's a different conversation. But for the most part, the MOSs that you would find, whether it be logistics, whether it be intel, cybersecurity, so on and so forth, it's all about continuing your mission. And we have a program, a hiring initiative in our company that we believe it's extremely successful. It's under the umbrella of continuing your mission. So when you leave the military, sometimes you feel, okay, what's next? What do I do? Where do I fit in? At CACI, you can continue your mission while working for a fantastic company that understands the importance of veterans, that respects the importance of your service, and it allows you to continue the work that you did while in uniform, but as a civilian, which is supporting the warfighter.
Wonderful. Gary, anything to add?
Yeah, I think there are some instances, as you referred to, Kathleen, where maybe it doesn't fall exactly in line with the person's MOS from the military. And one case comes to mind. Recently, we were talking with a intelligence analyst from the Army, and he wanted to get into a slightly different type of work. And so what we did was introduced him to a couple of jobs that required analysis, but they were essentially business analyst positions, not in intelligence, but business. And who better to analyze anything really than an intelligence analyst, because of the skill set and the background that they bring. And so we introduced him to a couple of positions where he would apply his analytical skills, but in a business sense as opposed to an intelligence mission. And he tailored his resume to that extent. He showed several management roles and projects that he'd had in the intelligence community to demonstrate that, yes, he was capable of a lot of analysis aside from the intelligence realm. And that tailored resume got himself an interview. I don't know his current hiring status. I think that process is still ongoing, but it's just an example, I think, of someone not moving directly from the MOS into an exactly matching career field, but one that's fairly aligned in terms of skill set, and then being creative and modifying and tailoring his resume to that job and applying the things he did in that role in a business sense. And it worked really well for him. We see that many other people do the same, and I think that's just a good example to share with the group today.
I think that's, really an important thing for most of our transitioning veterans to understand, is that when they're in one MOS, there are so many other skill sets that we talk about that veterans have, which is leadership, initiative, getting the job done, workforce management, budget management. So even though you may not see those as your primary skill set for your job, they are still skill sets that an employer will be looking for, and something that can help you during your transition. So while we're talking about various different jobs, I also want to sort of find out, are there any types of jobs that we see veterans sort of stumbling at and that they might need a little bit more support when they're going for that job? Gary?
Yeah, well, of course, people who are making a complete and distinct career change, I think, find it difficult, not just in our company, but in the job market in general. A lot of our, for example, CACI, we one of our contracts is to perform cybersecurity for the Department of Homeland Security, and to perform a range of IT network support type of positions for various government agencies. And so our customers, even for entry level positions, oftentimes require a minimum of 2 years of experience based on the operating environment, based on the complexity of the work, based on the sensitivity and visibility of the mission. So veterans who are making a career change, say from helicopter crew chief to cybersecurity analyst. I think there's some frustration there that they may have been through a boot camp. They may have gained some additional certification, but when it comes to experience, they may not have that experience. So I think there's some frustration on the part of job-seeking veterans when they are making that sort of complete career change, and they may not meet the minimal years of experience for the qualifications for those type of jobs, even the entry-level jobs. And again, I'm saying this is looking across the defense industry and across the federal government contractors, where entry-level positions you may find requiring some experience, which will challenge the job-seeking veterans who have made a career change and may lack that experience initially. So where do you get that experience? Well, you can get it through internships. You can get it through continuing, these boot camps that bring you up to speed and certify you in various skills, and then internships that follow. Or get some of that experience while you're still in uniform in an internship program like the Department of Defense Skill Bridge internship, which CACI is a proud sponsor of. So there's other ways to get that experience, but I think that is a continuing point of frustration for some of our veterans who are seeking that immediate career change when they enter the job force.
Denyse, any other areas that you see? I think, those are great points, the career changing. Any other things that you see, areas that veterans tend to stumble on?
Yeah, and it's something that we see quite often, which is a little bit unfortunate. And it's even before they are offered a position and accept a position, we constantly see some veterans stumble even in finding positions, in applying for positions, and not tailoring their resume, or just applying for just any type of position that they say, you know what, I believe I can do this position, but then they may not necessarily have the experience. So we see that, and as Gary mentioned, we see individuals have frustrating moments where maybe they're not getting a call back, or maybe they've been applying and submitting hundreds of resumes and not receiving any feedback. And some of it has to do with, okay, well, what are you putting out there? What does your resume read to what we're asking in the job requisition? And sometimes when we do, or quite a bit, our team, we kind of do deep dives and investigate, okay, well, where's the disconnect here? And, sometimes we do see, well, this person really their resume does not speak to what we're asking in the job requisition. So we always try to drive home that, look, everything is not guaranteed, but the little bit of control that you have as a job seeker is to ensure that the skill sets that you are putting on your resume speaks to what we're asking in the job requisition. So, we put it back on the veteran or transitioning service member to own their career, which includes, exactly that, tailoring your resume.
Wonderful.
Hey, Kathleen, if I could
Yep.
just make one other example there, just to reinforce the point Denyse is making, and we make this continue. I'd say I agree with Denyse. That's the number one pitfall we see in our job-seeking veterans and transitioning service members, of not tailoring the resume to the job that they're applying to. And it's really a mindset of use your resume to qualify yourself for the job. And where do you get those qualifications? Well, they're listed in the job description. And so we talk to veteran after veteran after veteran who submit generic resumes, who don't tailor their resume to the job. And those generic resumes, they don't cut it. And so, just recently I've talked to a Army Lieutenant Colonel who was applying to a logistics job. The logistics job, number one qualification for the job was being familiar and an expert, rather, on GCSS-A. That's an automated logistics systems in the Army. Well, nowhere on that resume did this officer list that he had experience with GCSS-A. So he got rejected for the job. That was the number one qualification for the job. And when I called him on it, he said, well, everybody knows that an Army Lieutenant Colonel would be an expert on GCSS-A. And I said, well, no, we don't know that. Not all of our recruiters are military. I've spent 35 years in the Army. I wouldn't say that every Army logistician's an expert on that system. And and regardless of that point, like Denyse said, own your resume. Put those points on your resume. Don't let don't let it to be chance that someone is going to assume something about you on your resume. Put those qualifications that you have that meet the qualifications for the job. Put them front and center on the resume so they're easy to find. Otherwise, you really risk the chance of not passing the screening test that gets you from to the job interview. And so, the other part of that is security clearance. I know probably a lot of folks on this call interested in ClearedJobs.Net have a security clearance. Again, that's something to put on your resume. Don't don't assume someone is going to assume you have a clearance coming out of the military. We're not asking you to share and divulge secrets or classified information on your resume. We're just asking you to list your clearance, because that in many cases is a qualification for the job itself. Thank you.
That's great. That's wonderful. So one thing that's interesting is that the pandemic really made it very apparent that we are all going to be a part of a remote workforce. We were at one time, we're now going back into in person. So one thing that I was very curious about is, do you think veterans, having worked in a group environment, having worked in a team environment, would they be successful in their first job out of the service in a remote position? So, I mean, I think that this is something new that our veterans may not be familiar with. Gary?
Yeah, I agree that, our coming from the military, that you're going to, I would say, be more inclined to want to work in a team environment, in a live environment. A lot of jobs we have offer that. We at CACI, we spend a lot of time providing mission support and technology and expertise to our government clients at client sites, in SCIFs, intelligence facilities, classified information facilities, rather. But at the same time, I have been telling our hiring managers and our program managers in the company that who better to hire in a remote environment than a veteran. And why is that? Well, the veteran brings self-discipline. A veteran brings a work ethic. A veteran brings a tremendous amount of experience and leadership in the job. And it's those qualities that we bring from the military that translate directly to a company like CACI, but also into the remote work environment. Who better to work on their own from a remote environment without constant checking and supervision and micromanagement than a veteran who is used to, again, comes with self-discipline and a strong work ethic. And of course, when you first enter the company, there's going to be some over-the-shoulder, whether it's virtual or live, there's going to be some over-the-shoulder coaching and supervision as you get integrated into the job. But again, I've been telling our hiring managers, do not shy away from veterans and transitioning service members in a remote environment, because of those qualities that they bring and that will allow them to excel in a remote environment.
Denyse, anything to add to this?
Yeah, just think, when you are getting ready to leave the service and you're toward the path to becoming a veteran, most of the time you get that last move. And I think in the climate that we're in now, in this remote environment, many times the job would dictate your next job, or your first civilian job would dictate where you would decide to live, what state you would be in, what have you, as a civilian. Well, I think now that you're seeing more and more remote opportunities, a veteran can actually probably go back home to their home of record, and say their home of record is New York, and they really want to go home, but the position that they're really interested in, that they absolutely meet their requirements for, happens to be in California. Well, now that remote is a stronger possibility to add to the diverse amount of positions out there, that I think is a little bit more attractive to veterans.
That's great. Yeah, I think that One of the things that I notice veterans don't do is they don't really look at all of their options. They don't look at the fact that they do have that final transition, that final move that they can do, and they can make a choice as to, do they want to be near family? Do they want that support network? Because we always know that, one of the great things about being part of a military community is that you have that support. And I think that if someone is going to look at doing a remote position, they might also want to look at having that other kind of support there for them. So, each company has various different divisions that support the mission and support mission-oriented work. What are some of the divisions, Denyse, that you have at CACI that seem to have a greater number of veterans?
Well, I think in general, so with us being a national security company, about 70 to 80% of our work is DoD related. So as you look at the transitioning service member, the veterans that are being trained, are getting their security clearance, they are immersed in DoD. They are immersed in understanding that mission even before they take their uniform off. And join the civilian sector. So as they join a company such as CACI, there are many opportunities, and we kind of mentioned it before, whether it be cybersecurity, logistics, intel, engineering, linguists, that where those particular skill sets, they will absolutely excel. And we have many contracts, and CACI, was not, or CACI was among the many companies that we just had a large drawdown from Afghanistan. And but even with that, we still have many opportunities where service members that have those types of niche MOSs and say they do want to go overseas, we have opportunities for them, both CONUS as well as OCONUS.
That sounds great. Well, we're actually running out of time here, and I don't want to miss this last question. So I hope you don't mind, Gary, that I'm going to pass you over for our next question, because I think this one I want to spend some time on, because there are, we can look at every kind of show that's out there that talks about transitioning veterans. We talk about a variety of different main tips. There's so many great resources out there to help transitioning military. But since the two of you are so embedded in providing advice to transitioning military, I was hoping you could share with us two rarely shared military transition tips that you wished someone had shared with you when you were transitioning. So why don't we kick this off with Denyse?
Well, we actually spoke about it, and we believe it's really, really, really important, is tailoring your resume. I didn't know that when I left the military. I presented with a generic resume. It just so happened that I had an opportunity to speak directly to a recruiter who kind of pulled the types of experience that they were actually looking for out of my resume. And we really wish this was driven home. Maybe it is, in TAP. It's been a while since I've been in TAP. But again, we cannot stress that enough. Tailoring your resume, even using terminology that we have. If you did that skill set in the military, and maybe we're phrasing it differently, but it's the actual skill set, use our terminology. So that's something that I wish I was told.
Gary, how about you? What was a tip that you wish you knew more about?
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize what Denyse just mentioned. I mean, I think that's number one. I'm not going to go back into that, but there's just tremendous value in using your resume to qualify yourself for the job. Secondly, networking. There's tremendous value in networking, and a lot of us coming out of the military, we may be, overly modest and humble, and not wanting to toot our own horn and all that sort of thing. I mean, that's a good quality among the majority of our military. But now's the time to really broadcast what your intentions are, Where do you want to work? Where do you want to live? And within that type of work, within that work, what are the types of roles that you could see yourself having in your next job? Those are things that you should communicate and broadcast as widely as possible across your network. And network meaning not just your close friends. I'm talking about mentors, subordinates, friends of friends, and anybody you thought you knew or you wanted to know. There's lots of different social networks and platforms to do all that and get connected. The job I'm in now, I got through the connection with a person who I had not seen in 10 years. We sat at the end of a long table in the Pentagon at daily briefings. We might have shared one or two conversations over the course of a year or two. And then 10 years later, removed from the military, we reconnect. She invites me to CACI and introduces me around. Next thing you know, I'm sitting down for a job interview. One of the last people I would have imagined who would be a champion for me in the current job I'm in, just because we had been out of contact for so long and that sort of thing. So the point is just reconnect, reestablish associations with people, even those that you haven't seen in a long time, and help them help you. Everybody out there wants to help you get a job, but help them help you by letting them know where do you want to work and what do you want to do, and then seeing if that they can develop a job opportunity for you in that way. And then having an inside advocate, a champion for you in the hiring process is invaluable. And you develop that through your network, as I just described. So I think that those are the two things to really hone in on, Kathleen, for tips in transition.
Wonderful. Well, on that point of networking, I'm also going to say that we do have a Cleared Job Fair tomorrow that CACI will be exhibiting at. So another opportunity to do networking is going to any of the career events that are out there. There are many career events that are available for transitioning veterans. And what's interesting is that a lot of people don't think that they want to network with recruiters, but I will tell you that, if you have someone who's going to recommend a vacation spot or a restaurant spot, why would you not have a network of people who could recommend you for your next job? So go out to as many job fairs as possible, start talking to recruiters. And if there are 2 or 3 that you really like working with, be sure that you've connected with them and you stay in touch with them. So thank you both, Denyse and Gary, for joining me. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. And thank you to everyone who was part of our broadcast this afternoon. Take care.